Rollins vs. Heyman backstage. Raw heated confrontation. Heyman shocks Rollins. Backstage Raw chaos. Rollins wants answers. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. What if Seth Rollins wasn't actually walking into a confrontation with Paul Heyman, but walking straight into a situation that had already been decided before he even showed up? And what if Heyman, for once, wasn't the one holding all the cards, but the one desperately trying to figure out who quietly reshuffled the entire deck without telling him? Because what happened backstage on Raw didn't feel like a normal WWE segment where two people argue, shout a bit, and move on like nothing happened. No, this felt heavier. Like one of those moments where the camera just happens to catch something it was never supposed to fully understand. You know that feeling when you're watching and suddenly you stop eating, stop talking, and just stare at the screen like, okay, something is off here. That was this. The arena is still loud out front. Matches are happening, commentary is trying to keep the energy up, music hits, pyro goes off, all of that. But backstage? Backstage is a completely different world. It's dim, it's tense, it's full of half-finished conversations and people pretending they are not listening to things they are absolutely listening to. And in the middle of all that, Seth Rollins is walking with that look. Not rushed. Not lost. Focused. Too focused. The kind of focus that usually means somebody is about to have a very bad night. And somewhere deeper in that maze of corridors, Paul Heyman is waiting. Now that alone already feels wrong, because Heyman doesn't usually wait like a normal person. He positions himself. He anticipates. He arranges the scene so that when someone arrives, it already feels like the conversation belongs to him. But tonight? Tonight he is just there. Standing. Still. Almost like he is thinking too much, which is never a good sign when it comes to a man like Paul Heyman. Seth turns the corner and sees him. And immediately, the energy changes. Not loud. Not explosive. Just a subtle drop in temperature. Like the room forgot how to breathe for a second. They don't speak right away. And that silence is doing more storytelling than anything else. Seth finally breaks it first, voice calm but tight at the edges, like he's holding something back. Tell me you didn't do it again. And right away, that line tells you everything. This isn't new. This isn't the first suspicion. This is a continuation of something already broken. Heyman adjusts his jacket, that classic move he does when he's trying to control the pace of reality itself. My client, he starts, but Seth cuts him off immediately, shaking his head. No. Don't. Don't client me right now. I'm not in the mood for your escape routes. A couple of crew members nearby suddenly find the floor extremely interesting. Nobody wants to be the extra in this scene. Heyman exhales. Seth, you're assuming I had influence over something I barely survived myself. And that line is interesting, because Heyman doesn't usually say things like barely survived. That's not his language. That's not his brand. So already, something is off. Seth steps closer, not aggressive, but intentional, closing space like he's closing arguments in court. Funny, he says, because from where I'm standing, it looks like you always survive just fine. Everyone else is the one left dealing with the damage. That lands. You can see it. Even Heyman pauses slightly. Just enough to show that the armor is not as perfect as it usually is. Seth starts pacing a little now, talking more like he's putting pieces together out loud. You know what I keep noticing? Every time something goes wrong in this company, your name is somewhere near it. Not always at the center, not always obvious, but always nearby. Like smoke before the fire shows up. Heyman tries to speak again, but Seth keeps going. And I keep giving you the benefit of the doubt. I keep telling myself, maybe it's coincidence, maybe it's paranoia, maybe I'm reading too much into it. But then nights like this happen, and suddenly it all feels a little too familiar again. Now the tone shifts. Less anger. More certainty building. Seth stops pacing and looks right at him. So I'm going to ask you one more time, and I want a real answer. Did you set this up? And there it is. The question hanging in the air like it has weight. Silence follows. Not the comfortable kind. The kind that stretches too long, where every second feels like it's exposing something. Heyman finally speaks, slower now. If I set up what you're accusing me of setting up, you wouldn't be standing here asking questions. You would already have your answers. That's not a denial. That's a warning disguised as logic. And Seth hears it immediately. He tilts his head slightly. So it's like that tonight. And you can feel it now, this isn't just a disagreement. This is history repeating itself in real time, but with new variables. Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman have done this dance before in different forms, different alliances, different betrayals, always circling the same idea of trust that never fully survives. Heyman tries again, softer now. Seth, you don't want to go down this road tonight. There are things happening that are bigger than both of us. Seth lets out a small laugh, dry and tired. There it is. The mystery speech. The bigger picture speech. I was wondering how long it would take before we got to the mythology section. A couple of distant crew members actually laugh under their breath, then immediately regret it when both Seth and Heyman glance in their direction at the same time and they vanish like ghosts. Now it's just them again. Heyman lowers his voice. You're not seeing the full board. Seth nods slowly. Or maybe I am. And I just don't like what I'm seeing. That line hangs there for a moment. Because this is where the dynamic starts to shift. It's no longer Seth trying to get answers. It's Seth deciding whether he even needs them. He steps back slightly. Let me guess. This is all part of something I'm supposed to understand later. Something that will make sense in a few weeks when somebody returns, or somebody switches sides, or somebody gets revealed as the mastermind behind everything. Right? Heyman doesn't answer immediately. And that hesitation is louder than any promo. Seth notices it. Of course he does. Wow, he says quietly, almost amused now. You don't have the speech ready. That hits differently. Because Paul Heyman always has the speech ready. Heyman finally responds, a bit sharper. Don't mistake silence for confession. Seth shrugs slightly. I don't. I mistake patterns for truth. That one lands even heavier. Now there's a long pause. The kind where both men are thinking, but for very different reasons. Seth is connecting dots. Heyman is calculating risk. Then Seth speaks again, quieter this time. Am I part of your plan, or am I the problem you're trying to contain? That question shifts everything again. Heyman looks at him for a long moment, and when he finally speaks, it's not what anyone expects. I don't think you understand what's coming. And that line changes the air completely. Because it's not an answer. It's a direction. Seth frowns slightly. Try me. Heyman exhales. Some things don't start with control. They start with inevitability. And once they reach a certain point, nobody is steering anymore. Everyone is just reacting. Seth shakes his head. That sounds like a polite way of saying you've lost control. A small pause. Heyman doesn't deny it. And that silence might be the most dangerous thing said all night. Seth steps back fully now, almost done with the conversation. You know what? I'm tired of storms I didn't ask for. He turns, starts walking away, then stops again without looking back. If I find out you're lying to me, I'm not coming back to ask questions next time. And then he leaves. No music. No dramatic pause. Just footsteps fading into the noise of the arena. Heyman stays behind. Still. And for once, he doesn't look like a man controlling the situation. He looks like a man trying to understand how much of it he has already lost control of. Back out in the arena, the show continues like nothing happened. But fans who know. Something shifted backstage. Something small on the surface, but heavy underneath. The kind of thing that doesn't explode immediately, but builds pressure until it has no choice. Because Seth Rollins didn't leave that conversation confused. He left calculating. And Paul Heyman didn't win that exchange. He survived it. But survival and control are two very different things. And right now, nobody is fully sure which one he actually has left. So I've got to ask you this, because this is where it gets interesting. Do you think Seth is finally seeing through everything, or is he being pulled into something much bigger than even he can handle? Let me know what you think in the comments, because this situation feels like it's only the beginning of something that's going to